who are. Sorry, did you want to go to the agenda? Oh, sorry, and I'm here tonight with Kristen Clemens, our division manager in housing, and Mindy Nguyen, our development officer in housing, and my colleague Nathan from the mayor's office, who's helping people in. So our agenda tonight, after we finish our welcome, we're going to give a little bit of, or Kristen and Mindy are going to give a little bit of background on the Housing Commission, how this seat came to be, some of the priorities for the Housing Commission and their work plan, and really what the commitment entails if you were to apply for this seat. And then we'll go through question and comments, and we're here tonight to help you fill out the application because we know it can be a little bit intimidating, but we have our computers here to walk anyone through it if they're interested in applying. So what is a lived experience seat? I already touched on this a little bit. This really originated a couple of years ago when the city council was discussing an anti-displacement strategy. Really, that's how we keep people in their homes, in their communities in San Jose, so that they're not displaced. And one of the recommendations was to increase representation on our housing commission. There was also a memorandum from the mayor, council members Jimenez and Cohen to really drive this seat forward and also create a stipend along with it, recognizing that folks with this experience might need a little bit of extra support to make such a commitment because we know that there is a pretty big commitment involved. Kristen, do I turn it over to you at this point?
I think so.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks, Mackenzie. So my name's Kristen, and I work in the housing department, and I serve as senior staff to the Housing Commission. And I want to acknowledge Alex Shore, who is on the commission, and he's our current chair. Thanks for coming, Alex. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about the Housing and Community Development Commission and what this thing is, and then so you can make a good judgment as to whether it sounds interesting for you. The purpose of the commission is to advise the city council on all kinds of issues regarding
Kristen,
housing.
do you mind coming closer to the speaker? It's a little bit hard to hear.
Thank you.
Zoom in.
On housing and community development. It's actually called out in the city's municipal code as to what are the types of issues that the commission gets to talk about. And so it's generally about housing, and it's generally about community development, which can include things like community centers, or it can include investment in neighborhoods. It also was created actually as a combination of different commissions. And so the previous commission was talking a lot about, or was addressing mobile home communities and our mobile home rent ordinance and our apartment rent ordinance and apartment communities. So all of these things now are overseen by the Housing Commission. The commission also gets reports on the housing market and gets to oversee 3 different sources of funding that the city uses. And then the people in the commission get to say, I think that these are pretty good priorities for the use of this money, or maybe I think we could, skew it a little bit more. Maybe we should do more services for people who are experiencing homelessness, for instance. So the commission is, all of the commissioners are approved by the city council. There were 13 seats and now there are 14, including this lived experience with homelessness seat. 12 of them are nominated by individual council offices. And so like Council District 9 has an open seat right now. So Councilmember Foley is talking to people who are applying, and she gets to make a nomination, and then that nomination would go to the whole city council for a confirmation. For the lived experience seat, it's the mayor's office that gets to make the nomination, and then the whole council will confirm. And that's why Mackenzie's involved tonight. There are 2 other seats that are specialized, again, for the mobile home community and the apartment rent community. They get nominated by outside organizations and then approved, confirmed and approved by the whole council. So the term length for the commission.
I'm going to add a little bit on the purpose, if that's okay.
Oh, sure.
It's one of the joys of the Housing Commission is we get to work with staff too. So as they're crafting policies,
Butters me up.
we're not only providing guidance to the council, we're providing input to the staff as well. And so as they're crafting policies, we get to talk with them and give them advice. And they're like, oh, that's an interesting point. Or, oh, we'll make that more clear when we talk to the council about the issue. So
Yeah, that's true. Thank you for that. The commitment for a term for the Housing and Community Development Commission is 4 years. And we are going to go through in just a minute what that looks like in a practical level, how many meetings and what the attendance policy is and all that. Next slide. Great. So I know when I joined a commission where I live, and I needed to know the following things: how often are the meetings, how long are the meetings, and what happens if I miss a meeting, right? The basics, how much homework is there, stuff like that. The Housing and Community Development Commission meets every month on the second Thursday. It's very regular. We don't meet in July, we get July off. Meetings are usually 2 or 3 hours. That's the typical length of a meeting. Once in a while, it can go longer than that. And once in a while, we will arrange a special meeting. We'll send out a poll and we'll arrange a time where most of the commissioners can come. That's if there's more than enough to get through at a given meeting. We don't want to do a 4 or 5 hour meeting. It's too much for everybody, right? We'd rather meet on another night and have a 2-hour meeting for the extra stuff. And right now, all meetings are held on Zoom. There are no in-person meetings. So this is unusual, which is why we couldn't find the doorstop. They're going to continue on Zoom for the indefinite future. There is no end date anticipated. And we are hooking the commission meetings being virtual to the governor's state of emergency declaration. So we just continue to monitor it, and all boards and commissions are treated the same way. And so that's all we know for the fall and into early next year. We're just going to keep monitoring. So for now, it's all on Zoom. This lived experience seat, we realize that people may or may not have a good place to take remote meetings from, right? And so, excuse me, and there is no like physical meeting to go to. And so, excuse me, I shouldn't have had the bubbly. And so one option that this commissioner has is if they would like to come to a city facility and have a quiet place to take a meeting from because they currently don't live in a place that is quiet or has good connectivity, we can arrange for that. We can figure that out. So that's an option for the seat. So attendance policy, how many meetings do you have to go to? All commissions are subject to the same rules, and these rules are given the number of meetings we have a year. It comes out to the fact that you can miss as many meetings as you need to if you're sick. Basically, an excused absence is if you're sick. If you were doing commission business that the commission authorized, that you could also miss a meeting, but that never happens, right? So really, if you're ill, you can miss meetings, they're excused. You tell staff in advance, it's not a problem. The official word is that you're not supposed to miss more than 2 meetings out of the year if you're not sick. If you're just on travel or you don't feel like going, you're just tired, you don't feel like it, that's fine. It's an unexcused absence. You get 2 of those a year before there's any problem. The third one supposedly is a problem. However, for this seat, because there's an alternate that we're anticipating, that council said, for people who may have, for instance, multiple jobs that they're trying to hold down, or, other things that they're trying to do to try to change their housing, for instance, if necessary, and it's up to the mayor's office to make this decision, we can appoint an alternate as well. And so the idea of the alternate would be that the obligation of going to the meetings could be shared between 2 people. And so this attendance policy will morph a little bit because of the alternate. And we haven't really worked that through with the clerk, and I'm not going to worry about it tonight, because the purpose of the alternate is to be reasonable about attendance for this seat specifically. Yeah, so we're still going to figure that out. Next slide. Thanks. So I just wanted to give you some idea and overview of the kinds of things that the commission addresses. One of the challenges is you know, if you haven't been on the commission before, you're not quite sure what kinds of issues that the commission might be discussing and if that's interesting to you. We recently had a commissioner come on and he thought that 90% of what we were going to do was talk about homelessness strategies. And he wasn't homeless. He hadn't been homeless. He just had a really strong interest in this. He was very disappointed to find out that's not what we did. And he resigned. And so he was only with us like 4 or 5 months. And it was kind of a waste of his time. It was a waste of our time. It was a waste of everyone's time because we tried to make him comfortable and bring him up to speed, but it wasn't working. So anyway, it's important, I think, for people who are applying to just take a look at what the work plan has in it, because it's a broad range of different kinds of things. So I put an excerpt from this year's work plan here. There are some policies and programs that the commission's looking at this year. So the biggest one, and I put a printout of part of the draft housing element back there. It's called the housing element, which is a big plan that the city has to do every 8 years. And there's a part of the housing element that has lots of policies and programs that the city should do to help housing production, housing preservation, homelessness, stabilization of people who are vulnerable, and integration of neighborhoods, and, you know, greater fair housing integration, promotion of fair housing. So that is a really big policy document, and that is the biggest work on our plan this year, on our work plan. We're going to be looking at the community plan to end homelessness on the city's implementation plan for that. But it's one of only 2 or 3 items on homelessness overtly on our work plan this year. Rent stabilization, the program is going to have a strategic plan and kind of an analysis of how the programs are working, which is going to be kind of exciting. And the citizen participation plan, which addresses the federal requirements for when we use money from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, what outreach they ask us to do. We're going to amend that to not call it the same thing. We want to acknowledge that there are some undocumented residents in our community. We want to outreach to them. We don't want to assume everyone's a citizen. So we're going to do a few amendments to that. And, you know, that's a policy document too. The commission gets to look at that. Here I've listed for funding and reports. These are the 3 sources of funding that the commission oversees. First, federal dollars from HUD, CDBG, you might have heard of before, home funds that can be used for housing directly, housing for persons with AIDS, and emergency shelter grant. There are 4 of them we get. Measure E is the local dollars that we put in place like 2-3 years ago. And it's very flexible money, and there's a spending plan the council's approved. The Housing Commission makes sure that the council spending plan is being met when the staff puts it together their budget every year. And then the Housing Trust Fund is local dollars, and it's used mostly for homelessness. So every year there's a budget action and there's a report back on how the money was spent from the previous year.
Okay.
And now we'll look a little bit more at where you can find information about the commission, and a lot of it is on the website.
Yeah,
Turn it
so
over to Mindy.
yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Mindy Nguyen, and I am a development officer with the Housing Department's policy team. I'll be going over the last couple of slides with you all before we open it up to question and answers. So the first thing I would like to talk about is how to navigate the Housing Commission webpage. So if you are thinking or considering applying to be a commission, or you are a commissioner already, or when you become one, this webpage is a really good resource for you to find all information related to the Housing Commission. And so I'll do a live demonstration on how you get to this page and go through some of the information that's on the webpage. So you'll open up your browser, and then in the search bar, you'll type in sjhousing.org. That is going to take you to the main housing page. It should say housing here. Okay. And then once you scroll down, you'll see additional resources. You'll look to your bottom right. Well, you'll look to the bottom and you'll see a link for the Housing Commission. So you'll click on the icon there and it'll take you to the Housing Commission webpage. As we start to go down, you'll see under overview, there is a link for meeting agendas and post-meeting synopsis. I'm going to click on this. And this is where you would go to find any current commission meeting agendas as well as past meeting agendas as well. So as you can see, the most recent one is from September 2022, last month, and it goes all the way down to 2012 if you're interested in perusing through all of that. Typically, commission agendas will be available 1 week prior to the meeting. So if you check back onto this webpage later on tonight, you'll see the agenda for the October 13th meeting. And so under agenda, you'll see the agenda packet as well as slides that accompany that agenda. And then afterwards, once the commission meeting is over, you can come back to this page and find the synopsis, which is a brief summary of the action items that the commission takes. Going back to the main commission page, we'll keep going down and you'll see there's information about meetings that Kristen had mentioned. If you're interested in going through the bylaws and policies and codes, there are links here. And then you'll also find the member roster. These are all the current commissioners that sit on the Housing Commission. You can see which seats are filled and which seats are currently vacant. And also what's really important is right next to the commission names are these official city emails. So once you are a commissioner, sorry, I'm gonna check this chat. Oh, okay, I'll close that, okay. Yes, and we'll get to that. Right now, currently all commission meetings are happening through Zoom. So going back to this, sorry. So all commissioners get an official city email, and that's where you conduct all official Housing Commission business. So whether it is communicating with fellow commissioners or with city staff, you will use that email. And also city staff will email you at your official commission email for any notifications, alerts, or things that are happening. We will continue to go down and we will see the current work plan as well as past year's work plans. I'll just click on the current work plan very quickly. And you'll see the current work plan for this fiscal year, which starts in August 2022 and ends in June 2023. This page is a really good resource for you to use to help anticipate what you'll be discussing in the upcoming months. So for example, if you go down to October 2022, you'll see the draft housing element. If you look at November 2022, you'll talk about Measure E, the housing crisis work plan, and so forth. So you can see what items are tentatively scheduled for each month. You also use this main webpage as well to apply for the commission seat, but I'll have another slide that will discuss that. So now we'll go back to the PowerPoint. And the next thing that I would like to talk about is the support and resources that will be provided to you. As a new commission seat, we want to make sure that whoever fills this commission seat will be successful and feel supported and will make the most out of their term as a housing commissioner. So these are some of the resources that the city will provide. The first is technology support, like laptops or tablet if you need it, a Wi-Fi hotspot device, and we can also help with printing need in the event that you would like your agenda packet to read it on paper. There will also be a series of onboarding and trainings, and there will also be peer-to-peer support, also known as a buddy system. So as a new commissioner, what will happen is that you'll be paired with a buddy who is a current commissioner for any informal onboarding and support. There just might be some questions that are better suited to asking a fellow commissioner rather than city staff. While we're here to answer all questions, there might be some questions you have, such as, what are some tips that you have to be successful on the commission? Or can you help me with some strategies that help you go through the agenda packet? So those questions like that will be more suited to ask your fellow peer. Additional resources we have is, as Kristen mentioned, someone is joining. As Kristen mentioned, if you don't have a quiet place to go to take these meetings, because currently they are on Zoom right now, we will reserve a space for you at City Hall to take these meetings. And then also there will be a $200 stipend for this seat, and it's also based on meeting attendance.
Is that per month?
Per month, yes. Okay, so who should apply? We are really encouraging everyone who has lived experience with homelessness, past or present, and has an interest in the commission to apply. You don't necessarily have to be a policy expert or know all the exact ins and outs of local government, but really if you have an interest on local housing and community development issues, if you enjoy working with others and you want to get more involved, if you want to learn from others and share your ideas and also be able to share your lived experience into thoughts about systems, policies, and programs and funding. And also if you think you would enjoy the opportunity to really advise the city council and city staff. But most importantly, the commission does take some time out of does take some time. So if you do have 6 to 8 hours per month, and that includes meeting time and meeting prep, and the ability to commit to attending these commission meetings. And so we are at the end. And so how do you apply? So very similar to, so you will go to, I will pull up the webpage again. So going back to sjhousing.org, you'll go back down again to the Housing Commission link. And if you go past the member roster, you'll see a paragraph that says, to apply for a commission seat, go to the boards and commission webpage. So you'll click the webpage, and then the first link you'll see is the application portal. Click on the application portal, and then you'll see on the left-hand side, you can scroll down to find the Housing and Community Development Commission. Click that. Okay, and then make sure it says Housing and Community Development Commission, so you're working on the right application. And then you'll see on the top right-hand corner, the button to apply. And then it will, once you hit apply, it will pull up the application for you. So this could, oh, and first review of applications will be October 24th. So please submit your applications by then. And that concludes our presentation. I will now open it up for any questions and comments. And I'll also stop sharing the screen so we could all see each other on the other side as well.
Yes.
Could we send the direct link to the application to everyone that is in attendance that's interested? Because there's too many clicks to try to get to the application. Just make it very simple for people to access.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
We also have printed.
yeah,
Do we have registration emails?
yes. So
for
we have
people
for sign up.
who-
Yes,
Mhm.
so everyone who is on
Good idea.
Zoom and folks who have signed up today, will send out an email with a direct link. So you don't have to go through all these clicks, but just to know that if you are somehow on Google and you're like, how do I get to this application? You can search sjhousing.org, but we'll send out the direct link to the application.
And you can see we're going so fast trying to get the seat up and going. I don't know if you noticed, it says 13 seats on the commission. It's really 14 now with the lived experience, and the clerk hasn't updated everything yet. But the application's ready to go because it has a few more questions appropriate for this seat. So for instance, do we want to pull up the application just to look at it?
Yes, we can.
For instance, it says, have you experienced homelessness, either currently or in the past? And if yes, then ask you some more questions.
Okay, yes, so this is the application, and there will be specific questions for the lived experience seat.
You might want to share your screen again, Wendy.
Oh, it's,
Share,
I think it's
share the
that.
screen.
oh, no, oh. Oh, yes, sorry, everyone, I'm gonna share my screen again. Okay. Oops. That, okay, here we go. All right, so this is the screen.
Did you
It's
have a
shared.
question
Okay.
before we start going through
I
the?
think so. The application is 8 pages long. Like it's
Yes.
very long.
Yes.
And I'm sure that has the same application that's used by for other commissions too.
It is.
So just for the people that are trying to apply for the seats, like a lot of those questions, like they might have clarification questions. So
Mhm.
they can know how to complete it. So like there was a question towards the end that said, what are your goals or something like that? So would we have a contact person that the applicants could reach out to answer questions?
Yeah, and also Chad mentioned in the chat that we'll have staff that can help people apply now or by appointment. And I'm assuming that's at Destination Home. But we also at the housing staff, we will also do that as well. Can help apply, yeah.
I think the point of the application is, and you know, the thing about applications, not everyone's a great writer, right? And a lot of people are more qualified than they let on in their application. And so the challenge is for the office that's reviewing a bunch of applications, how can you say enough that you at least get in to make your case and meet the people like Mackenzie? I don't know if you're screening directly, but to be able to get into her and speak to her so that she knows that you're, you know, able to string sentences together and be able to, you know, thoughtfully contribute to the commission, you know, translate what you have been through and advocate for people who have also been through that or are going through that in a way that makes you a great candidate to do this work. So it's just about being good enough to get into the door. But yeah.
Two questions. First one, do you have to attend here tonight or?
No.
Zoom to be able to apply and be accepted?
No,
or-
this is optional.
It is optional.
This is just to help people get acquainted with the process. This is not required.
The second question, personal question to you. Were you associated with Second Street Studios at all?
I was,
You were the manager
For a while.
for a while?
I was, yeah. I underwrote some loans there for a while. And, yeah, it's been a while though. Is that where you live or have lived, or have I met you there before?
My God.
I'm not there.
We met.
Okay, I'm gonna place it.
Well,
Okay.
I have a question. If somebody starts the application, are they able to pause and come back to it? Does it save it, or do you have to do it all?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yes, and I think you should be able to, let me just look really quickly. Okay, yes, so once you put in your contact information, at the bottom of the application, there's a save for later button, and they'll send you an email with your application that you can revisit.
That's right, because we always get notifications, somebody started the app and never finished it.
Mhm.
Right, because I'm the staffer on the other side that gets to, of all the people who have submitted applications for any vacancy. I and one of my colleagues get to go through all the applications and summarize them and do an analysis for the city council as they consider the appointments.
Great, and about the follow-up question, sorry, I saw you dancing over there. If, what can somebody expect after they've submitted the application? What does it look like time-wise, how they're contacted, those types of things, so that people can look out for it?
That is a good question. And the clerk's office is in charge of all the applications for commissions that get submitted. And we have a lot of commissions. I don't know if you saw that page. There's
Yes.
dozens. And so I think that there is something that you get when you submit saying, thank you for submitting. When you submit, your application gets held on file for 1 year. And if you say you're interested in more than just this seat, you can click like, yes, I'm also interested in the Parks Commission or something else. You can apply for multiple commissions at the same time. And those packets go to the different departments and the different commissions that have vacancies. And we all know that the person's applying for more than one. And it gets held on file for 1 year. I don't know that there's any more communication though than that, saying like, it's been 6 months. I don't think there is.
But is there some, like?
Yeah, Alex
maybe
has
what
gone
to
through this now.
expect for this specific?
For this
one?
specific seat.
Yeah.
So I think the way it works, we'll start reviewing applications in our office around the end of October. We'll
Yeah.
discuss with the mayor. And
Yeah.
then we make a selection, and then I believe the clerk notifies the person who's been selected.
But the people who don't get selected,
Yeah.
they did not.
I believe she also does notify them.
Oh,
about
good.
that. I think you confirm and send an email about that.
Right,
It's not selected, it's the mayor's,
Appointed.
right.
it has to get certified by the council.
So then it has to follow.
It does. Everybody gets appointed by the council. It's the mayor's nominee that goes up for appointment by the council.
Oh, sorry, wrong language, nominate to be appointed.
We have like no sooner.
Or confirmed, I'm not sure.
And then we just have a question from the Zoom.
Probably December.
Yeah.
We can have
Oh.
to agendize for a council meeting.
Yeah, I was just gonna go through the official timeline if that's okay, and then we'll
Oh,
get to
sure,
the
yeah.
Zoom, to
Yeah.
the
And then
Zoom
we'll go-
questions. Yeah, the initial review of applications on by October 24th. But on a rolling basis, but the first cutoff by October 24th is so that we can get to council on December 13th. With this appointment, plus hopefully 2 others. So that the commissioner can start with the January meetings and attendance, get sworn in and start attending in January. If the right candidate is not applied yet, were selected or just, changes their mind or whatever, and the process can continue. But that we thought that we would shoot for that December 13th council meeting and give it our best. And I know Mayor Licardo really, really wants to do this before he leaves office, right? He's very passionate about this, so.
Yeah, there is a question on Zoom. Can you go back and revise your application once you hit submit?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Probably not.
I think it's finalized and I
Yeah.
don't think you get to,
Yeah.
Probably, you could probably resubmit, but you got to work with the city clerk's office.
I think,
It's
yeah.
a Big mess, but
I think you'd have to call boards and commission staff and see if there's a way that they could help you.
Okay,
Yeah,
so once it's submitted, then
but it would be
You-
hard.
won't be able to go back and make changes.
There's a question.
Oh, yeah.
Here, yeah.
Is this just for an example, or can we submit this application to fill it out, or does it have to be online?
Oh, we printed these so that if somebody is more comfortable filling it out and to look at what, and so that we could help somebody and then
Mhm.
we could also do it.
Okay.
online.
And you have to
Yeah.
apply on the website.
Yeah, so what was the intended role? And I don't know if this is a question for Chad. But my understanding is that generally applications are done online, but I don't know if there was somebody who was saying that I'll go ahead and input it just to make sure that it gets done the norm. Or if the clerk's office, if anyone had talked with the clerk about accepting paper applications too.
Do you want me to ask Chad or Chad?
Yeah, I don't
Chad,
know.
I'm gonna
Chad.
end
I
with-
think we.
Or
should-
it'll-
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we
You just- Okay,
For like lived experience. people. People.
Got
So
it.
we just
Are you
wanna
with
make sure that
Lead?
we
Is
build
that the-
barriers, right? So one of the things that we normally do is just make sure that we have like visible. version
Exactly.
For people, so we just did it to make it easier for us to be able to communicate with people, to write down notes. to be
Exactly.
but we are willing to help people in whatever way it makes more sense for them. We'll just adjust whatever need are. Well, and at the same
Thank you.
the requirement
Yeah.
of the application system, right? So like Mike's question, so I have paper application, but do I absolutely have to submit the online application, which the answer is yes, correct?
Yeah.
I believe so.
I have a couple of questions about the application. If you go back to that really quickly.
Sure.
One, is it required to have proof of vaccination even if you're only meeting virtually?
Oh, that's a funny question.
It might be
That's a
very-
really good question.
Just wondering, it's a bit, I mean, I understand that a lot of, that if you're working with the city, you have to have the vaccine, but because it's Zoom,
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there may be an exception for that.
Well,
Fair point.
and let me make this point. Yeah, the Zoom is a really good caveat. Commissioners are looked at, they're kind of like volunteers, but they're also subject to many of the same rules that employees are, in a way. So for instance, I have to file a Form 700 every year that discloses any potential conflicts of interest that I have. So like if my husband works for Apple, I'm not allowed to work on Apple business in a way that would involve him, for instance, right? Like commissioners have to do that too. So we had a vaccination requirement for all employees,
We don't anymore.
but it's been lifted, right? It just got lifted. We're not doing in-person meetings. I think we will just double check with the clerk, but I think that right now, because it got lifted for employees and we're still remote with commissioners, my guess is it's not required today, but we will double check. It's a great question.
And then, who's reviewing it? Who makes the ultimate decision? Is it based on a scale, point scale? Is it just for the best fit, subjected to a review panel?
Mackenzie, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, so the mayor will review to make the nomination. And really what we're looking at, the completeness of the answers based on what's asked in the application. And some of the points we touched on earlier, are you able to
Yeah,
take your lived experience and use it to inform policy decisions that would affect other people who are experiencing or have experienced homelessness. I really don't think we're gonna be hypercritical of this. And I don't think we'll be expecting people to submit paragraphs. But really, if you can demonstrate that you're able to communicate well,
Right,
with others,
right.
do your homework, quote unquote, for these meetings, you know, make sure that you're informed, and educated about the topics, or at least be able to make that time commitment. I think
Right.
that's really just the basics of what we're looking for.
Right.
Nathan, do you have anything to add?
You know, I think for other commissions, oftentimes we'll outreach to applicants and have a conversation.
Mhm.
That depends on how many applicants come through.
Right.
You know, if it's a manageable amount, then, you know, staff will be able to, mayor's staff will be able to do that.
Mhm.
We'll see, you know, what the response is, and if we're able to do something like that.
Mhm.
You know, we've seen this as a partnership when we submitted the memo 2 years ago with Destination Home as well. So I fully anticipate, you know, Chad and Marie being resources as well,
Mhm.
volunteering you. And you're sitting here.
That's
so,
awesome,
yeah.
okay.
That's great. Thanks.
And I know at council, there is also a discussion about different experiences that people have gone through in their being unhoused. And I think there was a, you know, a discussion, and there was no conclusion that and it's not, you know, you can't just say like, we're gonna recruit for a woman who's been homeless. That's not legal. You can't do that. People by gender, it's protected class. You can't discriminate for or against people on the basis of gender, as an example. So you have to be careful about things like that. That said, if there are people who would add to the diversity of experiences, you know, just bring something different to the conversation, I'm sure that that's something that the mayor's office could look at and might look favorably upon. And so, for instance, different ways, maybe we can go to the application just to look at,
Sure.
you know, I know you guys have paper in front of you, but we put something on there that, you know, people are able to share if they want to, how did they become homeless?
Somebody have their hand
As
up.
an
Yeah,
example.
Yeah, I know. I was just waiting for the next, the next segment to transition over, but Rudy, I'm going to ask you to unmute. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, thanks, Rudy.
Yeah. Okay.
So I
Hi.
think,
Oh,
tell your story. Please, go ahead.
Yes.
okay. I'm was on the platform just trying to fill out the application, and it seems as though there's a time limit. It kept kicking me out of the platform. Is there a reason for that, or is it just a glitch? I'm not quite sure. I wasn't able to fill out the application. I tried already 2 times.
Yeah, and I think I noticed that as we were meeting right now and taking questions, I had the application open. And because I went idle for a bit on the application, it automatically closes in 2 minutes. It had a countdown, so I think that was happening to you. So you can't, I guess, have your application open and step away for 30 minutes because then it'll close. So I think that might be what's happening, or no?
No, actually, I was filling out the application and typing in my responses, and my responses were kind of lengthy. So I was typing it out, and then it just would pop up right in the screen in front of me, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then it shuts down after I'm still continuing to type, and it erases everything.
Oh,
So-
no, yeah.
We can reflect that to the clerk's office, but when I fill out an online application, what I tend to do is try to find either a notepad function or a Word function, some kind of place that I could actually write out my responses as long as I want to, you know, take as long as I want, edit them there. And then when I've got them final on all of those questions, I just cut and paste quickly into the application and submit. Because
Great.
lots of applications are annoying like that. I'm sorry about that, but I will reflect that to the clerk. That it's.
Okay,
being
great.
annoying. Sorry.
Oh, by the way, Rudy Ortega from Columbus Park. I live here, so
Thank you,
thank you
Rudy.
guys.
Okay.
To answer the previous question around, is there a rubric or a number, scoring system, just to address that question directly? Not yet. This is
No.
the first time we're doing it. And so I think that we want to see what comes in first. And then maybe we'll have a better way of examining it. But in the end, it is the mayor's prerogative to choose, to nominate, who he would like to nominate. So, that's why there isn't typically a scoring system, for the appointed by the council member or the mayor.
You have to fill out every question.
I think they're, they can master it. I don't know.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think there are some
No,
required
there's-
questions and others, but you know, I've seen those applications that come in like half filled out and they're really not very competitive compared to the ones that are more filled out.
Sure.
But I do think there are some that you must, that the asterisks do denote ones that you must fill out. Like
There-
which applicant, like which commission are you going for? For instance.
Also, just to clarify, the reason why I asked about the grading system is some of the questions that you asked are like. Rent property, is there a month lease? So if you're not understanding, or if you're just assuming about how you will be judged when looking at the application, you could assume like, do I need to have all those things? You know, there's no
No.
clarification of like, this is not required for this position.
Correct.
So there's like a little, I know for
Correct.
myself, if I was filling it out, I'd be a little bit insecure. If
Got
like
it.
somebody who doesn't have, who has those things,
Yes.
maybe would be more eligible.
Let me, if I could take 1 minute, I'll tell you a little bit more about the general composition of the commission, which is a little complicated. So bear with me, Alex, sorry. So, along, you know, the municipal code, calls this out. So, you know, if you want to go on the website and read code, you can do that. But anyway, fascinating stuff. Along with those couple of dedicated seats, somebody who is, an owner of a mobile home park or represents an owner, somebody who is, represents residents in mobile home parks. Those are 2 dedicated seats. There are other roles that are on the commission. They don't have dedicated seats like this lived experience seat. But what we try to do is to look at all the applicants and see who brings those sets of experiences. So for instance, Nathan was telling me like somebody's going to apply who is a renter in an apartment rent ordinance apartment, so a rent controlled apartment. That is a required role on the commission, but it's not a dedicated seat. And so it's just something that someone who's appointing a regular commissioner, we have to figure out how are we going to get someone who is good, who is also an apartment rent ordinance renter. And so that renter question goes for that question, it goes to that. It also lets us say like, do we have a commission full of people who own their own homes? That's not really good because a lot of what we do pertains to renters, right? So it's kind of more to the diversity question, but it's not evaluated. I was going to say another requirement for the commission is that 5 people on the commission, aside from this lived experience seat, must either be low income or work for an agency that serves low income people. Or there are a couple of other ways to meet this low income requirement. Which is those are a little more complicated. You could be an elected local leader from a group that's in a low income neighborhood. Or you could also live in certain target neighborhoods of the city, which is more complicated. Anyway, this lived experience seat's not going to be one of those 5 because we wanted to enhance the diversity for the commission. But we have to figure out how are we going to get the 5 through the general appointments of all the seats. So anyway, so there are lots of, that's why I have to do analysis of all the candidates when candidates have to go up before the council. Alex, you're going to say something.
Just gonna ask, could we add or tweak the language slightly to address Ingrid's question so people know it's informational, it's not prohibitive?
The clerks closed down additional edits to the document for the next few months because they're going to switch over to a new system. So we were getting in these edits at the last second, which is awesome that we did it. But we could take your thoughts and see if we could, you know, ask for edits next spring.
I think there's an opportunity to give feedback.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not for submitting the application this time, but opportunity as they move to the new system.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, we could look again and make sure, because I think we're with you. We want to make sure there are no barriers, either real or perceived, as to people thinking like, I don't think I fit this description, and I guess that's not for me. Like, we don't want that to happen. unwittingly, you know.
I think for now, for this application for this seat that we're trying to appoint someone into, destination home and support work that we're offering, like that's what we do, right? We emphasize to the applicants that come to us for help, that
Right.
this is informational,
That's right.
not remunerative.
That's right.
without-
Thank you for sharing that message. It's a great question.
Yeah.
Great question. Yeah.
There's a question about CDBG.
Yeah.
That's something that Mackenzie and I ever thought, like, well, I think the question is, are you familiar with CDBG?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I read that in there. as
Yes.
well. That's why I was.
Yes.
Some of these things may intimidate people if you don't even know the language.
Yes.
Well,
So,
if it makes you feel any better, I believe when I applied 7 years ago, I did not know what CDBG was. And I think I Googled it, read up.
and
learned
made
what I
some
could,
sentence,
and
and
then
that's all anyone does.
I think this is not about CDBG.
Well,
That
and-
sounds good. So-
well, and ironically, the people who know about it are receiving the CDBG and they have to recuse themselves from the votes. So
So possibly,
they're like their agencies are,
I know that's a legacy question that's been there for a while, perhaps in the next iteration.
I think it's still germane. There are 5 areas in the Muni Code issue areas that it would be good to have people who have knowledge in those areas, you know,
So I
that's-
would-
and that's one of them.
Yeah, so I think that's another opportunity to put a note there saying, the reason why this is being asked.
Yeah.
Because,
Right,
it'd be good if you.
right.
you know,
It's
if you
nice to
don't know
have.
what it is, it's limited. Right.
It's true. And it might not just be CDBG, but other federal funds from HUD or, you know, something. But right, that speaks to the areas of expertise that it would be nice to have on the commission. Someone who knows lending, someone who knows federal programs, somebody who knows homelessness programs or service programs, stuff like that.
Okay, one
They're
more
part of
question.
this.
So, is there gonna be, is there support, like, to get read up on these things as well? So is it gonna be a requirement for them to understand or like have their knowledge base or some kind of,
Oh,
I know that, I don't mind offering that kind of support to our, with experience. But it is like, it's knowledge, it's institutional knowledge that takes a really long time to learn, so we don't expect.
Oh,
people
yeah.
To at least have some resources where they can find.
I don't think that anyone should feel like they have to do what Alex did, which is like, I'm gonna look stuff up and read and like learn and put it down. I think they should, especially for this seat. This seat is not the same as the general seats. This seat is about telling your own story about your lived experience with homelessness and how you can convey, you know, what you have experienced and how you're going to translate that and to thinking about policies and funding and, you know, it's about telling that story. It's not trying to tell somebody else's story that knows about federal funding. You don't have to do that. Those areas,
Their expectation.
yes, those areas of expertise, those nice to haves, really are about the general seats. They are not about the dedicated seats. This is a dedicated seat. Yeah, so
And then
don't
just
feel
one
that way.
Suggestion, it would be great if y'all can let us know when the appointment does happen, so that if people. were in
Yes.
Contact with us and followed up, we could say, oh, by the way, you know, sometimes people miss.
Okay.
Even if you just communicate with Chad or one of us.
Okay, great. Yes, and we expect it to be on, we're planning for the December 13th city council meeting.
Okay.
But yes, and I guess Mackenzie and Nathan would be the main people to be moving forward.
If you've been incorporated, will it affect this?
No, and actually, if you were able to write about that,
Yeah.
right, it might, like, no one else on the commission may have gone through that, and that might add a different dimension to your application. Like,
Yeah, I heard you.
that's pretty cool, actually, I think.
Mhm.
Because being an ex-offender and coming out and trying to find housing, right? Like those challenges and being able to speak to that
I got
is difficult, right?
housing, I've been having it for 10 years. And, when I got out, I got relocated to California because I'm from New Orleans
Oh, my goodness.
and Katrina. So,
Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow. That's a lot.
Chad had his hand up for a
Wow.
while.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, Chad. If you still
Hi,
want to ask a
Chad.
question, I'll ask you to unmute. But if not,
Thank you. I was just gonna say, Rudy, for example, the kind of challenge that you're having, the tech challenge. that's totally the kind of thing that we can help you with. And I believe that you know Claudine, but if you don't, get to know her. But we're here to help. We don't want this, like, no offense to the city, we don't want this clunky website form thing that they know they're going to upgrade
concur.
to be
I know.
the barrier for folks, right? Like, so that's not what this is about. So we just want to make sure that we're here to help, and it can be tonight, and it can be next week, and it can be when
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Chad.
Really appreciate that.
it works for people.
And I could take my computer to Columbus Park, like I've done before, and I can, yeah, so, that's something else that we can try.
Okay, Rudy, I'm not sure if you heard that, but Claudine said she could bring her laptop to Columbus Park and help you fill out the application. And if you don't have his contact already, I should have your email under the
No,
registration.
they're connected.
Oh,
They're
you're connected. Oh,
connected.
perfect. Oh, okay, okay. I said, thank you. All right, next is Michelle. Yeah. Go ahead,
You know what? Actually, I was trying to do that a little earlier, but hello, everyone. And this was great and informative. Part of the reason I ended up homeless, I'm here now in the hospital. I had a child with medical conditions, and since birth and throughout life, when I tried to work, it wasn't a lot of services afforded to me initially, as far as housing or anything like that. So I was a single mother at the time of 2 daughters and my son. And I went through years of it. And a lot of times people put us all in the category of one. And I believe there's different levels and different reasons and different advocacy. So I look forward to, trying to work with you guys if I'm picked, and many prayers and blessings for everyone else.
thanks, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, Alex. Yeah.
To the mayor's staff, will you all be recommending an appointment of the alternate at the same time as the?
Could you all hear that question? Alex was asking if the mayor's staff will also recommend the appointment of an alternate at the same time as the main seat.
Have we confirmed that that's?
Actually, Mindy pulled the action at council today, and it said, and it was Councilmember Peralez's motion. And it said the phrase "if needed." So it, agree with staff's recommendation and appoint approve the lived experience commissioner and appointment of an alternate if needed. And so,
How do we define if needed?
I don't know,
Yeah.
but we assume that it's moving forward.
Okay.
I just assumed that it would be, moving
Okay.
forward, and that it might be a good experience. We talked to the Office of Economic Development about when they had alternates through the DSAP experience, through the Diridon experience. Totally different experience, it was not a commission. But I think we should figure it out if we think it would help. So I'm happy to keep talking to you
No,
about
I
that.
think the short answer is just yes.
I think we should
Let's just
pursue
do
it. And I think
Do it.
we should amend City Council Policy 0-4 on the attendance to make it clear that if an alternate
Right.
is present for that seat, how do you think about
Right.
absences? That's the only technical question that I can think of. It needs clarification.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Because as you were saying, Kristen, we learned even with another commissioner who thought it was gonna be a good fit, after a couple months, they rolled off. So if we have that alternate
True.
already
Yes.
in place and ready, if
Yes.
it's not a good fit for the first person, we've got the alternate.
That you bring up a good question or a good point, because actually where I live, I'm on a commission. They always appoint alternates for a general seat for that situation right there. If somebody can't habitually be part of a subcommittee meeting because they have a conflict on a certain development project, or if somebody resigns and you don't want that person that's lot missing for months while you figure it out. They always have alternates.
There'll be some work to do around how we define alternate, is it that both people get all the information at the same time.
Right,
And if something comes up, another thing on an alternative takes place,
right.
or if there's another structure of doing it, that we'll work with.
We'll figure it out. And then the stipends, we'll just make sure that we agree, on the approach. So if they both want to come to the same meeting because they feel like it's an important thing to learn, would they both get the stipend every time, or would there be one official attendee and one backup who?
So I think more so for the seat, right? So as you have heard, Rudy says he's out of Columbus Park, he's currently homeless. Michelle shared that she's also homeless, she's in the hospital, right? So with the people that are applying to be in this specific seat,
Right,
it's more needed to have an alternate, right? Because
right.
their lives are.
Yeah,
they're
Chaotic,
well,
yeah,
there's so many challenges and difficulties. right?
exactly.
So that last part that you guys just discussed amongst yourselves, it needs to be solidified for this seat,
Definitely.
right? And maybe an exception be made specifically for this.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. I think the important thing is to have somebody speaking from their lived experience at that meeting on a given issue. And, and that they can work it out, maybe who's gonna attend which meeting, or, and just keep us in the loop, or, we can figure it out.
And
But that's the most important
buddy
thing.
System will be so critical for that you just like that, so they can have someone to.
Good, I like that.
Would you mind if I share the slides tomorrow?
Yeah, I can send that over to you. Mhm, yeah.
We're gonna post the slides on our Housing Commission website also, and the recording of this Zoom, so that if anyone couldn't attend tonight and they have access to the internet, they could watch it. And while we're all together, I wanted to make you all aware, if you weren't already, about another opportunity too. And unfortunately, the session for that is also tonight, and it's started at 6:30. So people could pop over to this other thing if they really wanted to. But it is something that is also focusing on lived experience, not just on homelessness, but on different elements in the community. So it is about the Community Advisory Board for the investment fund that the Department, or the Office of Economic Development, is overseeing. And tonight they also have an orientation, unfortunately. They also have an application that's due, and weirdly, the deadline is October 24th. Weird. They actually have a hard deadline, though. They are filling a commission up, a brand new commission. It's pretty cool. The commission's going to oversee dollars that were made available by, I think it's all by Google.
Oh, yes, that is.
Yes, so there are going to be, 13 voting members and an alternate, excuse me, and at least 5 voting members must have lived experience in the areas that the programs will cover. And so, for instance, it might be that you are economically insecure, or you might own a small business in an area that is at risk of small business displacement, things like that, or you've experienced residential homelessness. So the members who have the lived experience designation also eligible for $200 stipends for monthly attendance to these meetings. And it's called the Community Stabilization and Opportunity Pathways Fund. That's the formal name. Google will continue to put money into the fund as they build out the downtown project that they're entitling. And we're hoping other funders are going to put money in it too. So it's really pretty exciting. The city staff's going to evaluate applications, and the city manager's office will make recommendations to the city council for appointments at the December 6th city council meeting, one meeting ahead of us, and they will start meetings in January. So if anybody is interested in this, you have an email. I don't know if we want to put in the links in the chat.
Okay, I can send that over.
Yeah, if you can pop over to your email.
Stabilization Opportunity Pathways Fund?
Yes. And we have the email. I could even I could text it to you too if you want to be here. There's a Zoom going on. There's a website with tons of information. And there's an application link from their website. So it looks really, really interesting to me as well.
Oops, I should stop screen sharing for a second. Wait, am I still screen sharing? Yes.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. All right, let's see.
They are going to use a different application platform than the normal city commissions because they're piloting the system, the new system. Oh, sure, they get to pilot it. Mhm. So unfortunately, you can't just do one application for both because they're trying out the new system. Otherwise, you could have done that, but that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
On their thing, I'm interested.
I'm not signed in.
Michelle.
Oh, yes.
Chatted on there. Yes.
Okay.
And then
So I have Chad
should
in
have
my contacts, I
everyone's-
think. I can send him the links if that works and
everyone who's on Zoom, I have your email
Oh,
address
he
through
has
the
that.
registration, so I'll send the link to you afterwards as well.
Mindy?
Yes.
oh, that'd be great.
Send me all the emails,
Yeah.
so that we have it and we can reach out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we can add them to our listserv as well.
Okay.
So that we can get, they can get the same email everybody else.
Mhm.
Get with the follow-up.
Will do.
I'm happy to see you guys are interested.
Thumbs up, thumbs up. I know. We're really
And just to be
looking,
clear, our help is open to anybody interested.
Yeah.
So just, I just want people to feel confused, that's like, what you have to be part of the experience of life.
will you help me?
I mean, depends what you're with, but.
I need a lot of help. Thank you. You seem very helpful.
But it's not, I can connect you with the right resources.
No, you're very good at that. Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, Alex,
Oh,
yes.
do we just want to open it up to Zoom or here if anyone has any application-specific questions? Just want to make sure we're not missing anything.
That's true. Like, what does this section mean or?
What are you looking for? What?
Did you
what's the
looking
kind
through
of-
it?
okay.
Do we have any more copies of the application?
There should be about 5 in the back.
I'm gonna
I
go
have to
get
grab
a
them.
copy of the
Yeah.
application. If I can write to.
Uh, should, I could also, I'm also gonna put the
We have
application.
a few more.
Okay. Oh, oops, sorry. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen.
Wait, what?
Finish the application.
People need to apply by what date?
Yeah, the 24th.
Oh.
October 24th.
October 24th for Housing Commission is going to be the first group that we will analyze and hopefully find a good appointee from. Or the mayor's office will be doing that. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily closed out.
No.
I guess I also want to point out that the mayor's office, should I do a paid advertisement? Has their general seat that's also open
Oh,
for the
yeah.
Housing Commission.
And having lived experience does not preclude you from
Oh,
applying to that as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
so,
The AR.
yeah, right,
Well, there's.
yeah.
It's both now.
So, so besides the lived experience seat, the mayor's regular seat is open. And, you know, anyone who has lived experience, it doesn't, you would just apply as a regular candidate. And that is a possibility. Also, I think, as I said, Councilmember Foley has a seat open. And it is not necessary to live in the council district of the person who appoints you. So somebody could live anywhere
Anywhere in San Jose.
anywhere in San Jose. You need to be a San Jose resident. But other than that, it does not, you do not have to live in the appointee council
And it's
district.
enter and Cameron County.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah. absolutely,
People who are.
absolutely. There is a section, I could anticipate one question. On page 4, there are a bunch of blanks for references. Like, and one question could be, do I have to provide a bunch of references? I see applications that don't have references. I don't really think that they matter that much personally.
I think that goes for the rest of the application as well, just for
Where is that?
destination home that, you know, any response you know, we're looking at it, or our mayor's office will look at it,
On screen
but,
share.
you know,
Yeah, I'm trying to
they
people
don't know what
to,
to
yeah, trying to find this portion.
that,
Yeah.
you know, you could just put that down and say, you know, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
this.
anyway.
A lot of people say, I don't know what that is. Right.
So there's a question, this was Rosa's question, at the bottom of page 3. So it says, if you can go there.
Sure.
So it says, please identify any organizations or associations, corporations, or entities by which you are employed or associated that might be affected.
By
By
decision.
decisions of the board, or commission, so that was.
I see.
So.
Oh, I see. So for instance, Alex, do you want to cover this? Alex understands this one pretty thoroughly.
I think. so if
With
you're-
direct conflict.
If you're not employed at the time, you're much less likely to have any issues with this question.
That's right.
There are times on the commission where we actually make votes to support a staff recommendation to give city money to nonprofits. So if, let's say you were receiving funds from Destination Home as a part of a lived experience board or other types of employment, the City Housing Commission actually gives recommendations on grants to Destination Home. And so if you have financial interest in other words, if you were getting paid by Destination Home and then you were a housing commissioner making recommendations to pay Destination Home money,
Right,
that could be considered a conflict of interest.
right.
And so you would want to point that out in your application. I am a temporary worker, or I've been paid in the past by Destination Home, or I'm applying for a job at Destination Home, and I expect to get it. And so there, that might be a potential conflict of interest.
Right. And I don't know if everyone online could hear that. This is just about identifying potential financial conflicts of interest. So if you are an employee of an agency that the city also funds, this is where you would disclose that. Because those are the items, if a funding item came up in front of the commission, you would just excuse yourself from the room.
Yes, okay, thank you for that.
Yeah,
So
you would just say, I'm
concern-
sorry, I have a
Yeah.
conflict, and you would
Yeah, this is
excuse
very
yourself from the room.
generalized.
Here's where you would,
For company,
Correct.
yeah.
Right.
absolutely not. It would just be disclosing that, you guys do realize I work for Sacred Heart, right? And Sacred Heart receives federal money. And so it would just be disclosing it. It is not a disqualification. Something like that.
So we have about 4 minutes left. Any last minute questions or?
Please describe your experience in serving on a commission or board. That does not mean you have to have served on a commission or board before. It just gives you a space in case you have to talk about it. But the question, would you be able to attend meetings at the scheduled time? And by attend, we mean remotely at this point, right? We don't mean in person at this point. You do have to check yes on that one, right? Like that, if you couldn't regularly commit to attending, that would be a problem. So here's one we've talked about making a requirement, but we didn't yet. Have you ever attended or watched a meeting of the commission to which you're applying? So that's one of those things like, do you have the right idea about the kind of work you do on this commission? And so, so you wouldn't be setting yourself up for a false impression or setting your appointee up to, be disappointed if you walk off after 2 months.
They are on YouTube. They are easy to just.
They're on
take
YouTube
15 minutes.
and so
There's one next Thursday.
Yeah, baby.
there's one next Thursday. If anybody wants to watch a Zoom recording, they're kind of big to put on our website, so we don't load every one of them up, but we keep them. And so somebody could just ask us, could you send over a couple recordings? And we can do that. My assistant Louisa can send over access codes, where someone can pop in, just click on the access code and watch those meetings. So yes, you don't have to have watched it, but I highly recommend it. Anything else on here? Yeah, But do describe your experience with homelessness, right? Because that's what the mayor's office will be looking for, about what you would add, what voice you would bring. Have you ever stayed at a shelter or used any homelessness services? You don't have to say anything in particular about, right? Like, it's just, again, talking about your experience. The council talked about, should we prioritize people who have been homeless here or in Santa Clara County? Well, obviously you do have to be a resident of San Jose currently, right? So, that's the requirement. So, but there's no formal requirement other than that. I think that's it. Are there any other weirdnesses on here that you would think this is a strange question, or I don't understand what this means? Oh, ethnicity. You know, the demographic questions, they do not affect whether you're eligible or not. They just are used to analyze whether we have some diversity in our commissions, right? So this is not to say like, oh, if a woman applies, like, oh, we have too many women on the commission already, we're not going to take another woman. We do not, nobody uses it that way.
Voluntary.
And it's voluntary, absolutely.
Mindy, do you know if there's an issue with the application if an individual doesn't have a street address? I assume it's not gonna disqualify or say this isn't eligible, say cross street of such and such.
Good point. If everyone can hear that question, what if you don't have a street address with a number? Could you put in like an intersection?
Do you know that, Kristen?
I think it's just a text field, so
You can just put in,
I think that's right.
Yeah, but you have to
Yeah.
put something there because you see the red.
yeah, it's required.
Yeah, I think that's right. You could just say corner of the street and that street, and I think it should, as long as something's filled out, it should be okay.
Or somewhere you're temporary staying would be okay too, right?
Or your mailing address. Yeah.
That's right, or your mailing address. Although a PO box wouldn't let you know if somebody actually lives here. So, although it does say, are you a resident? Also, what council district do you live in? Not everybody knows that, but it does give you a link where you can look to a map. So if anyone needs any help, they might need help with that. We could help with that too, you know.
I just wanted to reiterate too, that if somebody is maybe, this was a lot and you have to think about this, that you can make an appointment with us. And we're happy to do it at another time. Right now is not the time to apply.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you. And, you know, today's the 6th and the 24th is the goal. So I know it's kind of fast, but it's definitely 3 weeks away, right?
Yeah.
Can I do that math right? Yeah.
And Chad has his hand up.
Chad?
Chad, if you'd like to unmute yourself. Oh, yeah.
Thanks. I think you've already clarified, but I just wanted to just like, and I already know the answer, but like if you live in Columbus Park, which is in San Jose, like you're a resident of San Jose, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. And I think for a street address, you could fill in Columbus Park, San Jose. And if you know the zip, fine. If not, I don't think it would matter. I don't think you get an error probably, but I don't know. Just fill in some zip. I bet you that 99999, I bet you no one would know. Yeah, no one would know. I think the zip was wrong. 95110. And Columbus Park. Thank you. Good. One other thing, length of residency, I would say just put down like if you've lived here, if you moved away, you lived here, just add together all the years that you have lived here on and off. Doesn't have to be continuous.
Nope.
That's what I would say. Anyway, so I hope that this was not too daunting. The commission application is pretty simple, and now there are spaces where you could just have a little bit of room to tell your own story and who you are, and that is the most important part, I think, of this, especially for this lived experience seat. So I'm personally really excited about the fact that this was created, and we want to make sure that we hear from the whole, range of San Jose residents. And I know how much people have been going through and how important it is that more people hear what your priorities are and have those priorities, really affect how we are doing our work. And so I'm really looking forward to meeting whomever gets appointed and the alternate and starting the onboarding process and making people as comfortable as possible as they start working with us. So I'm thankful that everyone is here today. Thank you for everyone who's helping and interested. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Mindy, Mindy has taken over this work. Yay, of like making the 100 different details move forward. So I really appreciate everything you're doing, Mindy.
Yeah, and thank you to everyone on Zoom for sticking it through with us till
Thank
7.
you.
I know a few dropped off, but appreciate you all.
And I just wanna, extend a huge gratitude to the mayor's office, Mackenzie, Nathan, you know, Kristen. I mean, you said you're very excited. This is a victory worth
I know.
celebration over the next 4 years. This is amazing. So thank you so much for everything that you guys put into making this happen. To get us to this point today. So, thank you.
And lots of possibilities out there. So thank you. Thank you for being here and for helping.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll be posting this video online so you can have a review, and I'll be sending out all the links that I shared to your email addresses as well.
All right,
Thank you. Good
Have a good
night.
night. Thanks all.
Thank you.
About it and get our.